Alright guys, Matt from Total Drummer here. Welcome to this lesson. We are going to check out a slightly crazy groove in 15/16. There's some mad stuff going on. This is quite an advanced lesson, so if you dare, let's get started. Alright guys, so generally what happens is, this is what we're learning today, right, on this little scrap of paper. And what happens is, I'm at the kit. I don't know if you do this, but I'm meant to be learning some songs for a gig, some actual sensible, usable, practical stuff. And I get bored quite quickly. And I just start making up some weird stuff, or I accidentally play something and my brain goes, oh, what was that? That was quite cool. And then I kind of deconstruct it. And then I think, oh, what if I then did this? And, you know, I bet you do the same thing, right? So I know that's not super professional and not very disciplined, but look, when I'm wearing this shirt, discipline and professionalism, they're out the window, okay? So this is what I do, and then I write it out. And then I was teaching a guy the other day, and he's quite advanced, so with advanced students, I might just chuck random stuff at them just to test them and have some fun. And I threw this at him, and I just thought maybe I'd put it out. This might be some fun for you guys. So before you start shouting at your screen saying, Matt, what the hell are we wanting to learn a 15/16 groove for with weird stuff? Like, am I ever going to use that? Well, probably not, if I'm being honest. But here's the thing, right? So, is it worth spending time on? Yeah, I think so. Because look, us drummers, we're awesome people. We know that. We're awesome people. But we're also innately problem solvers, aren't we? We solve problems. We're constantly solving those problems of how do we get the mechanics of all our limbs doing these crazy random things. That's just kind of what we do. So, for me, I will spend as long as I need to spend on weird little exercises just because it bugs me and I want that challenge and I embrace that challenge, and it's just a puzzle. I've got to unravel it and figure it out, right? So, this is a very new thing that I've just done. I can't play it that well, so I don't care. I'm just going to teach you the concept. It's not about me looking good. And as I say, you know, I've got the shirt to look good in. So, this will probably be a lot better in a week, and even better in 2 weeks. It'll be a lot more natural, but I think I can play it well enough to teach it today. So I think this is worth doing just for the fun of it. Is it practical? Well, you're not going to use it at your next pop gig, but this reminds me a little bit of Vinnie Colaiuta's thing he did. Was it Attack of the £20 Pizza on his solo album, mid-90s, I think? And there's that bit in it where he kind of skips a 16th note. It's like a little glitch, jumps forward. So, you know, he used it. I know it's not like mainstream music, but my thinking is, you don't know what stuff you're going to need until you can do it. You can't chuck it in. It's just like, I always use the analogy of speaking, of language, right? You know, a 5-year-old doesn't know about certain words that an adult might use. So in their heads, they're like, yeah, I don't need those big words. But then as they go through life, they'll learn those big words, and sometimes they can express themselves differently because their vocabulary is bigger, their language skills are better, so they can say more, they can express themselves in greater detail. For me, that's the same thing, exact same thing with music, right? So the more stuff I can say, the better I can express myself. I don't know if I'm going to use that thing until that thing's part of my playing vocabulary. So I'm not going to not learn it just on the basis that I don't yet know how to use it. Where would the world be if we all thought like that? We wouldn't have the innovations. You wouldn't have the device you're watching this on if someone didn't think, imagine if that massive telly could be like this big and all that computing power could be there. If people didn't think, what if, if Vinny didn't think like that, we wouldn't have all the awesome stuff that Vinny could do. He'd just be there playing a 4/4 beat still. And that's cool for most scenarios, but we need people to push the boundaries. We are pushing the boundary here. That's why we're doing it, all right? So let's talk about 15/16. What the heck is that? So if you think about 4/4, you've got 16 16th notes in 4/4. So 15/16 just means we've chopped one off the end. So the end of the bar would count as 4E and A. So we've just chopped off the A, right? That's it. So in concept, that's quite simple. In terms of how that feels, it's going to feel unnatural because you're missing a quarter of a beat. So the way we would feel that bar is, if we just count it as 6, you know, like in 4/4, and we'll go 4E and A, but we just won't say the A, so we'll go 4E and 1, we'd get this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and 1. So that's it, right? That's all it is, not too complicated to think about. So anyway, I wrote it out on my little scrap of paper. That's where it all starts. That's where the magic starts. And then there is actually a properly written, computer generated, beautiful bit of sheet music. And there's a link below this video. You can go and grab it, completely free, all right? So I would do it. If you're gonna learn this, I would go and grab the nice one. But to save the planet, I didn't print it out for me, so I'm still working from the original manuscript. Okay, so that's it in principle. Now, this is all based upon a really basic 4/4 pattern, okay? And what we're gonna do, so it's a 4-bar phrase, but first we're gonna learn each bar on its own, and then we're gonna put it all together, right? So let's just first hear the 4/4 groove with the cut off to make it a 15/16 groove. I'm not going to add the foot pedal, the hi-hat thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to play the groove to you so you can kind of get a feel for how that 15/16 thing works. It kind of feels like a glitch in the machine. So we're going to get a feel for that. So let's do that. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. So that's it in the simple form, okay? So I would practice that for a while first to get used to it. Now what we're gonna do, there's a kind of separate thing. We're gonna bring all 4 limbs in, so we're gonna bring those hi-hats in as well. And we're gonna do each bar individually. So the first one, it's just on the downbeat, on the quarter note. So what we're gonna do first is just practice this as if it was in 4/4, just to get used to that hi-hat placement, okay? Now I would say, if you can't do this first bar, as a 4/4 one, you probably shouldn't be here, because this is quite an advanced thing, right? So let's check this out. If you can't do this first one, I would just go away and practice this for quite a while first. When you're super comfortable, come back to this lesson, all right? So the first line, but played as 4/4 with these on the downbeat. Alright, so hopefully you've done that before. If you are here for this lesson, that's pretty bog standard. The second one, we're going to put the hi-hat on the E each time. It's going to feel a little bit weird. So it's going to go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. It's going to come after each bass and each snare, and it's going to come between the rides. Okay, so 3 and 4 and. Alright, so that feels a little bit less natural than the first one. Line 3, we're going to put the hi-hat on the and, so it locks in with the ride cymbal. This again, this is a really usable thing that you probably already use. Let's just check it out anyway. Alright, and then the last one, again, slightly unusual. The hi-hat's on the so the 4th, 16th note in each beat. So it's going to come just before each bass and each snare and between the rides. 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that was all 4 bars on their own and just played as 4/4. Just so you can feel how the hi-hat sits between them. Okay, so we are now coming down to the bottom of your page, and for me, the scrap of paper in its entirety. So we're going to play this, so now we're going to take it into the 15/16 arena. And so what's essentially happening is, like, what happens up here makes a big difference for this. So it's written in 15/16, it is in 15/16, and the bass drum, the ride and the snare kind of reset on beat 1 each time. So do that kind of skip forward, but then it's the same each time. So the hi-hats are effectively doing just quarter notes all the way. So the spacing between the hi-hat is the same for the whole thing. Right, and so because the rest of the beat is kind of skipping forward each time, it has the effect that the hi-hat is displaced by being pushed forward. That's your perception. It's being pushed forward a 16th note each bar. That's why it moves through the bars. But if you took the hi-hat in isolation, it's just playing quarter notes the whole way. So you could put a quarter note click on in 4/4 and play this beat, and the hi-hats would be on the click. I would find that really hard, because then it feels like every other part of the beat is dancing around the click. And I'm not thinking of it in 15/16 anymore. I'm in 4/4 and my whole beat's being displaced every bar. That to me, that's much harder to get my head around it. Far easier for me to just reset the beat on beat 1 of every bar. So I'm back to like starting fresh, and I just move the hi-hat. So like we just practiced, in the first bar it's on the downbeat, on the second bar it's on the 1 E and a 2 E and, on the third bar it's on the 1 and 2 and, on the fourth bar it's on the 1 E and 2 E and . So in my head I'm resetting the beat and the hi-hat shifted. Even though, as I say, even though the hi-hat has the same spacing for the listener, I'm not focusing on that. As I say, this is kind of new. I just kind of scribbled this out the other day, so maybe I'll change my sort of mental approach to this. Maybe you've got some other ways, and if you have, tell me in the comments below, because quite often a tricky beat can seem impossible until you approach it in the right way in your mind. And once you find that way for it all to make sense, it can suddenly be so much more achievable. So half the battle with these kind of grooves is often just, getting it right in your head. So let me know how you do it. Right, I'm hydrated, so it's ready to do this. So what I'm going to do, there's no messing around with this, I'm just going to go into it. It's not going to be that quick, but that doesn't really make a difference anyway, the speed particularly. It's more just kind of grasping the whole concept of this and getting your limbs to behave. And I'll tell you as well, when I'm going between them, some of the transitions are kind of easy. Going from bar 1 to bar 2 for me is the hardest one. Going from 2 to 3 is alright, 3 to 4 is alright. Coming back to the first bar is kind of cool because the feet lock together again, it resolves there, so that's alright. But going from bar 1 to 2, a bit killer. So don't be dismayed if that first transition is messing you up, because I think that's the hardest bit in the whole exercise. Let's try it. So I'm going to count 3 E and a 4 E and A and come in there. So I'm sort of counting the end of the 15/16 bar. Here we go. 3 E and a 4 E and. Alright, that's it. As I say, a little bit rough and ready. It's not quite sitting yet, not comfortable with it, but I kind of got it in time, and it's making sense. And it's a cool one. So, look, as I said right at the beginning, the reason I went to the length of telling you why I think this is worth learning is just because I know we question these things. There's lots we could be doing, there's so much to practice. Do we need to waste time on stuff like this? Well, maybe not. If you can't play in time and you haven't got your basic feels down, then that's probably more important. But if you love this stuff and you love the challenge and you love just trying to puzzle your way through it, that's enough to just work on it. I wouldn't just practice this for 4 months. It's not going to help your career or your overall enjoyment as a drummer. But there's room for this to be practiced in amongst all your other more important stuff. So just do it. And as I say, who knows, man? If you've got this in your toolkit, who knows when you're going to chuck it out and use it? You never know. All right. So look. I hope this is fun. If it was, hit subscribe, because there'll be more of this kind of thing coming for sure. But there's also some real practical stuff. Most of the lessons on Total Drummer are super practical. If you want a free timing course, there's a link for that below as well. I'll chuck that in there so you can go and get that. It's a really great course that's going to improve your timing. And actually, there's some stuff in it that would help with this, but it's just more overall timing. It's going to be awesome. I will see you next time.